What's up, gang? We're back with a full programming analysis of the 2 weeks of CrossFit.com that Ben Smith was a guest programmer. So we're looking from October 9th to October 21st was the 2-week window that Ben had assigned to him. So we're gonna look at a full programming analysis, looking at all of the different domains and metrics that are measured on the programming analysis sheet that is available at in the CrossFit Level 2 manual. So we're going to be looking at the different modalities used, the different time domains, the amount of volume in each workout, excuse me, any redundancies or things that we might see. And we're going to have a look at basically how well did Ben Smith stick to CrossFit methodology. In my opinion, not the greatest over the course of 2 weeks, but let's dive on in. So starting with Monday the 9th, we had a 2-part workout, 4 rounds, 500-meter run, 50 double unders, and then 5 reps of the following complex 1 wall walk into 1 wall-facing strict handstand push-up. After you finish your 4 rounds, you had a cash out of a 200-foot plate overhead walking lunge, and it was a 5x3 strict press as a secondary piece to that. The Tuesday, back squat, 10-8-6-4-2, followed up by 10 rounds alternating with a partner of 10 burpees to a 3-inch target and then 1 seated legless rope climb. Wednesday was 3 rounds. The power clean reps went up, so it was 5 on the first round, 10 second round, 15 third round of power cleans at 185, 135, 20 dumbbell bench press and 100 double unders. Secondary piece was to accumulate 2 minutes in an L sit. Cruising down the rest of the week. Thursday workout. Every 4 minutes for 6 rounds, 15 calories on a skier, gonna 400-meter run. Friday, big bruiser of a workout, 10 down to 1x1s of deadlifts at 315 or 225, and then front squats at 225 or 165. Cash out for that was some Tabata hollow rocks, or secondary piece rather. And then on Saturday, we hit a 30-minute EMOM, 3 different stations. First minute was a 200-meter run. Second minute was 4 box jump overs plus a 10-yard sled push, and then the third minute was 6 bar muscle ups. Coming into the second week, we had a 5x3 front squat followed by a 6, 9, 12, 9, and 6 of thrusters at 135-95, weighted pull-ups and burpees over the bar. Tuesday was a 20-minute EMOM. First minute was 1 minute max distance on a run. Second minute was 15 air squats. Wednesday was a 10-minute EMOM of 1 snatch, and then every 5 minutes for 4 rounds, 30 GHD sit-ups, 20 strict handstand push-ups, and 10 power snatches at 155, 105. Thursday was a 15-minute AMRAP, 200-meter run, 25-foot handstand walk, and 5 L-sit strict pull-ups. The 25-foot handstand walk was increased by 25 feet each subsequent round. On Friday, we had a 7x1 power clean, and then 10 rounds with a homie of 5 power cleans at 225 or 155, and then 10 bar facing burpees. You'd alternate full rounds. And then Saturday was 3 rounds, 30 cal row, 30 push-ups, rest 3 minutes, 3 rounds, 30 cal bike, 20 toes to bar, rest 3 minutes, and then finishing with 3 rounds of a 30-yard sled push and 10 muscle ups. So what we want to look at as we're kind of looking across this week is the one thing that was definitely unique was Ben programmed a workout on the Thursdays. Now, I don't have a massive issue with that when it comes to trying to apply fitness across a general population. Not everyone has the same schedule. So offering that optional Thursday workout or offering a Thursday workout might allow someone who has Thursday to work out, but maybe can't work out Wednesday. They have something that they can do so they're not having to shuffle things around and risk kind of messing themselves up down the line. So I'm not too upset with that. However, when we look at the patterns across the week and all the modalities kind of added up, we're going to kind of chunk piece, and then kind of put it together. For week 1 of Ben's programming, we had 6 total monostructural movements. We had 8 weightlifting movements and 7 gymnastics movements. So across the entire week, it was relatively balanced. A slight bias towards weightlifting in the sense that there were 8 movements. However, where the bias definitely came in was heavy weightlifting. So we see a heavy piece here, The power cleans in this workout be classified as heavy. These are two incredibly heavy barbells, so we're just seeing a trend of too much heavy going across the week in terms of for it to be balanced from a loading standpoint. In terms of modalities, decently balanced across the board, but definitely too much on the heavy realm. For week number 2, this is where we start to see a shift towards more weightlifting and gymnastics. We had 8 weightlifting movements, 9 gymnastics movements, and then 4 monostructural movements going across week number 2. So definitely a step down or a step back in terms of monostructural volume over the course of the week. What that adds us up to in terms of where we see a slight imbalance, and it kind of makes somewhat of sense seeing that Ben is a CrossFit Games athlete and trains those type of people, is that across both weeks we have 16 weightlifting movements and 16 gymnastics movements, but only 10 monostructural movements. So something to think about. Again, it leans toward Ben's bias of this is the way that he would train. But what we see across both weeks is we already mentioned a heavy bias on week 1 towards heavy weightlifting. Similar here, we've got a heavy front squat, we've got heavy thrusters, the weighted pull-ups are heavy, the snatches and power snatches are heavy, the power cleans and then more power cleans are heavy. So a massive bias towards heavy weightlifting. And then when we look at the gymnastics side of things, we have a massive bias towards higher skill or more complex gymnastics. We have our wall walk and wall facing strict handstand push-up complex. We've got seated legless rope climbs. We have L-sits. We've got box jump overs on a tall box and bar muscle ups. We've got strict handstand push-ups, GHD sit-ups, L-sit pull-ups, ring muscle ups. So massive bias towards heavy weightlifting and high skill, more complex gymnastics. So from a balance standpoint, or sticking to the methodology standpoint, definitely a miss by Ben there. He could have made things a little bit simpler, not necessarily like how to be less fitness or less effective. It just would have been more balanced from a GPP standpoint. Now, with that said, fully understand Ben is a CrossFit Games athlete as well as a coach to other CrossFit Games athletes. So it just makes sense that the programming coming out of Krypton Athletics is going to be heavier, higher skill, and a little more of some heavy hitting workouts to challenge the fitness levels of the upper echelon of athlete that we have in the sport and in this space. But with that said, not appropriate for CrossFit.com, not quite sticking with the methodology that we've come to know and what I look for as a coach and a programmer when looking at things like this. So diving into a little bit more nuance from just the modalities and balance of that, we're now going to have a look at volume across the week. So for the volume across the week, I'm just looking at the Metcons. Heavy days generally are low volume pieces. We know that's going to be the case because the load goes up, volume has to come down. So I'm just looking at the volume from the conditioning pieces. So looking across week 1, we have 0 low volume, we have 4 that are medium volume, and then 2 that are high volume. Now the classifications for that, low volume would be less than 50 reps total. Medium volume would be anywhere between 50 and 200 reps, and then high volume would be 200 reps or more. Cool. So looking across week 1, 4 medium, 2 high, 0 low, definitely an imbalance kind of in that medium range there. He could have done with 1, maybe 2 more on the lower end to kind of balance things out there. Similarly, with week 2, a little bit better. What I like to see, we're gonna go 3 medium volume, there's 2 high volume, and then 1 low volume across the week. So a little bit more balanced. Most CrossFit Metcons are gonna fit within that kind of medium range. So having 3 to 4 workouts that are in that medium range of volume is right where we want to be, and then the other 1 or 2 should be on either ends of that, so either low or high. So week number 2, Ben hit a pretty good balance in terms of the volume of movements across the week, or volume of repetitions rather, and then week 1 is where we see a little bit of imbalance where it's just all towards the medium and high end. As we look at time domains, here's where we see a massive shift away from balance and good variance. For week 1, we had 0 workouts that were sub 5. We had 0 workouts that were 5 to 10 minutes. There were 4 workouts between 11 to 20, and then 2 workouts that were longer than 20 minutes. So, sitting in that medium to long range. Now again, we're gonna see most of our CrossFit workouts fit within that medium range, but the fact that over the course of 6 days of programming, as opposed to 5, so Ben's adding 1 extra training day, the fact that over the course of 6 days of programming, Ben didn't touch on either of the 2 shorter time domains, again, thinking sub 5 or 5 to 10, we saw nothing in there, is a big miss in terms of the variance of the programming. We saw a similar thing here on week 2. Basically, all we did was we took one of the 20+ minute workouts and shifted it into the 5 to 10 range. This workout right here was Ben's saving grace in terms of the balance of the programming. Everything else was back in that 11 to 20 minute range, with 1 workout being 20+ and 1 workout, again, that Friday Power Clean partner workout, was between 5 and 10 minutes altogether. So, looking at these things, we can see that there's a bias towards moderate to longer workouts. There's a bias towards medium to high volume, and there's a mega bias towards heavy weightlifting and high skill, more complex gymnastics movements. With that said, one thing that Ben can kind of get away with his programming is he worked a handful of intervals in there. So when it comes to the energy systems that we're touching on as we go through our workouts, the interval workout here, going back and forth with a buddy, or if you're rock and rolling solo, just slotting kind of a minute rest in there. This interval piece here, the EMOM at the end of the week, you're able to touch some kind of higher output interval style training. So total working window pulls it out of that time domain, but you can kind of make up for it in the sense that when you're doing faster paced, higher intensity intervals, you are touching those energy systems, at least for the first couple rounds, until things start to kind of tank and die off. However, with that said, to improve this, I would have loved to see that maybe only one of these days has a 2-part workout, meaning either a lift and then a conditioning piece, or a conditioning piece and then an accessory type thing, something like that, really to be appropriate for GPP and for our general population on CrossFit.com, sticking to the methodology, sticking to the variance. Only one of those days per week should be a double day. But with that said, we had 8 out of the 12 days programmed had double sessions, meaning 2 training pieces for the day. So either a lift and a workout, or a workout and an accessory. This one here at the end, I'm counting that as 3 separate pieces, because each one of those would be an amazing workout in its own right. But the fact we took 3 round workouts and put them together into one mega piece, that doesn't fly in my book. We're gonna count those as 3 separate workouts. So 8 out of the 12 days that Ben programmed had 2 sessions. Again, mega bias towards volume, too much for GPP. As we kind of continue looking through, when it comes to movement patterns, last thing we're going to look at, last kind of bias that Ben had in his programming was a heavy bias on pulling off the floor and Olympic lifts and squatting. The biggest kind of issues that I have is when it comes to our squatting movements, over the course of about a 5-day period, we went below parallel 4 times on 4 separate movements. So if we have a look at this here, on this Friday, on week 1, you absolutely smashed your face into the floor with a super heavy barbell and a lot of heavy front squats. Cool. Saturday workout, sled push, still cooking your legs, we're not below parallel there. When we come down to this week, we're below parallel on 2 separate training pieces, both with a heavy barbell. So the front squat being a heavy piece, and then that's a heavy thruster right there. Below parallel 3 times over the course of 3 workouts. Again, there's a 4-day span in there. We're below parallel again here. So immediately after going below parallel, below parallel, below parallel, we're below parallel here, at least it's body weight. That's kind of the only saving grace here. However, there's 150 of those suckers. Not only have you done 55 heavy ass front squats, and then another 15 heavy ass front squats, and then another I can't do math, somewhere near 30, 36. Nope, that's bad math. 46, there we go. 42, don't mind me. Heavy thrusters. We're gonna tack on another 150 air squats to that. That's way too much movement redundancy there. And then to cap it off, this right here, 10-minute EMOM, I'm gonna put a little asterisk on that one with my gripe with it. It's one snatch, and if it's written as snatch, it leaves it kind of up to the interpretation of the athlete, whether to catch below parallel or above parallel. However, the weightlifter in me says if it's not specified as power, then it shall be squat. So this is another day below parallel, again, with a relatively heavy barbell. So we've got below parallel 4 times in 5 workouts with a heavy barbell, and then a 5th time on that air squat. So too much redundancy in there. In terms of squatting movements, 12 days of programming, we're below parallel with a heavy barbell 5 times, below parallel in total 6 times. Way too much on that. For the pulling off the floor, we've got 6 days pulling off the floor. All of them are heavy. We have the heavy deadlift here. We've got heavy power cleans on this one. We've got heavy snatch. Again, within a workout, 155 classifies that as heavy. Heavy snatch. We've got heavy power cleans, heavy power cleans. So the overall kind of pulling off the floor and squatting volume at heavy loads is way too much for this to be appropriate for GPP, to be appropriate for CrossFit.com. And it's just a massive miss by Ben in my mind. Now, having gone over all of those things, does this mean that Ben is a bad programmer? Absolutely not. Does this mean that Ben has no business programming CrossFit workouts? Absolutely not. Does this take away from anything that Ben has achieved in his CrossFit career, both as an affiliate owner, as a coach, as an athlete, as a representative of the sport and the community? Absolutely not. However, from an objective standpoint, again, using the metrics that we keep track of in the level 2 manual, this right here is not good CrossFit programming for a 2-week cycle, and it's a major miss by CrossFit.com to have Ben do this and not audit this before it gets put out to the world. So, with that said, guys, leave in the comments any thoughts, any arguments. I'd love to have a discussion with you guys. These are just my thoughts and my opinions. However, I've got some pretty strong numbers to back it up. So let me know what you think, and we'll see you guys for the next programming analysis.